The civil war that is raging in Sudan has almost disappeared from the global headlines. But that does not mean that the fighting in the troubled nation has stopped. There are now troubling reports that are emerging from West Darfur, where the rebel RSF forces are again being accused of ethnic cleansing. Remember, 20 years ago, the Janjaweed Militia, from which the rapid support forces had emerged, had wreaked terrible violence on the people of Darfur. And now, an estimated 5,000 people have been killed, and over 8,000 others have been injured in the capital of West Darfur, in a war that has been described as the Battle of the Generals. So why is the civil war in Sudan increasingly acquiring an ethnic dimension? Our next report explores.
Sudan descended into chaos in mid-April after fighting erupted between the Sudanese military led by General Abdel Fattah Burhan and the paramilitary rapid support forces commanded by General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. According to Sudan's health ministry, in bloody pitched battles since then, more than 3,000 people have been killed, while about 2.5 million people have been internally displaced. The deadliest violence, though, has raged in Darfur, a vast western region on the border with Chad.
The situation in Darfur is probably the one that is worrying us the most. Access into Darfur is limited, but we are hearing from those who are crossing into Chad a very difficult situation in Darfur. We're also seeing more and more of those who cross into Chad arriving with injuries.
United Nations has warned of possible crimes against humanity and said that the conflict has taken an ethnic dimension. More than 150,000 people have fled Darfur over the border into Chad.
It's clear that there is an intensification of the conflict in Darfur. We see that the ethnic dimension that we saw in the past is coming back, unfortunately. At the beginning, we were talking about a conflict between the government armed forces and the rapid support forces, but today we see a spreading and an intensifying conflict. So indeed, the people arriving, a lot of women and children arrive with injuries. So it's very worrying, and we call on all the parties to the conflict to protect civilians.
But witness accounts of summary executions and the targeting of civilians on the road from El Geneina, West Darfur's capital, to the border have also emerged.
I am particularly concerned by reports of gender-based and sexual violence and by the ethnic dimension of the violence in Geneina. Targeted attacks against civilians based on their ethnic identities could amount to crimes against humanity. In little more than 2 months, 2 million people have been forced from their homes, seeking refuge in safer parts of Sudan or across borders. Close to 500,000 people have already crossed borders into neighboring countries.
Reports of dead bodies scattered along the road and the stench of decomposition have grabbed headlines across the world. United Nations has urged for an immediate stop to the killings of people fleeing El Geneina by Arab militias, aided by the paramilitary rapid support forces. These militias have allegedly targeted men from the non-Arab Masalit people. 20 years ago, former strongman Omar al-Bashir had unleashed Janjaweed Militia to crush a rebellion by ethnic minorities in Darfur. Charges of genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity had been leveled against Bashir at the time. Dagalo's rapid support forces have their origins in the dreaded Janjaweed militias. At a time when no side appears willing to stand down, the risk of this conflict exacerbating into a prolonged one is getting more real by the day.